Board Games Insider, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, and major irritant of Tom Vassell.
This is Board Games Insider, where publishers Ignacy president of Portal Games, and Stephen Bonacore, president of Stronghold Games, discuss the hobby board game industry from the inside, providing you with news, advice, and a look behind the curtain into both of their companies. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Ignacy and Stephane.
Hello, Ignacy and Portal Games.
And this is Stephen Bonacore from Stronghold Games and Indie Game Studios. Hey, Ignacy, this is episode 116. We're recording on August 26, 2019, and half of us are on the high seas. We'll talk about that in a second. We're a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. I know you like to say that I'm on vacation, right? I'm on vacation, but no. Am I on vacation, really?
That was, to be honest, it was my opening line. How's your vacation, sir?
I took it away from you. But I am on the BGG at Sea cruise, which is really cool. For those out there who don't know, Board Game Geek runs one cruise a year, and so does the Dice Tower, our network that we're on. Both of them are excellent. I highly recommend that if you have the ability to get away, that you come on one of these cruises, because not only, of course, are you getting a beautiful vacation out on the seas and exotic destinations, but you also get to game when you have lots of downtime, and cruises are known for relaxing. And what do we like to do best? We like to game. So great stuff.
Yes, on a serious note, because, of course, I love to make fun of you that you're on vacation all the time, but on a serious note, because, of course, me and many of us have never been on such a cruise like this, just open gaming, or there are some events, tournaments, just a short, brief explanation how it average day on the cruise looks like, if you can tell to us.
Sure. So on the BGG cruise, there'll be a few events, but 90% of this, 95, 99% of it will just be open gaming. There's a huge room where you can go into, and they have the BGG library that you could have requested games to be put in there, or you bring your own, of course, and you just play pickup games with the people you came with, whatever you want to do. Everyone is so friendly and stuff like that. They'll have a little event. They'll have like an opening party event on the first night and a closing party, and there's like a poker tournament tonight, I think, at some point. I think I might play just because I have some fun with everybody. And it's mostly just about just relaxing and playing games whenever you want. The Dice Tower cruise, the one that Tom and company runs, they've got a few more events that go on. They do their shows and things like that. They do like one every other day or something like that. But generally, that's the same kind of thing too. There's very few scheduled events. Mostly, besides those things, it's open gaming and a couple little like fun tournament things and so things like that. So just a lot of fun to be on one of these cruises.
Yeah, you just proved to me right. You're on vacation, sir. Case closed.
Well, it's a working
I rest my
vacation. Yeah. All right, maybe a little bit of vacation. All right. Tell us what's happening inside of Portal Games.
Yes, we are working, sir. So
you're working.
Pret-a-porter on a serious note, yes. Pret-a-porter on a final production stage. So what does it mean? For the board game, there's so many components. So we have a plastic insert, it is a different manufacturer. We have a cards printed here in Trefl in Poland. We have a wooden pieces, custom wooden pieces, because it was a Kickstarter, so it was very fancy wooden pieces. So all these, beats start to be at the final stage, and I have information this week. All the cards will be ready. This week, all the cardboard will be ready. We are waiting for the wood. Today, we were accepting the wood pieces. Also, a lot of things going on, and so far, fingers crossed, no problems, no delays, as scheduled. Everything is all right. So hopefully, we will be really able to ship these copies to backers in September, so they can receive these copies in October. And of course, for the company, it is a huge release for Essen. So of course, it is very important to have also retail version for Essen. It is the first time for our company that we are doing a production that some of the beats are for the Kickstarter, so there are these fancy, custom wooden beats for this retail version, but at the same time, in production, there is this retail version that is standard pieces. So for Greg, it's quite a challenge, but well, fingers crossed, we know our job, so I think we'll be safe. and in Essen a retail version, and for the backers shipping very very soon. For Essen, because I guess, and this is my guess. In upcoming shows, the word Essen will be very often said by you and me. Essen is really, really close. So, of course, this week we are announcing officially our Essen releases. This is Sand Runners, the new army for Neuroshima Hex. This is a Japanese island's first expansion for Empires of the North. We already discussed this here, and of course, Pret-a-Porter, so 3 new products. We are opening pre-orders as always. Over the years, we were discussing this, you and me, that for us it is possible to run pre-orders for Essen. For you, it is harder because of the logistics, so you don't have pre-orders, but we do. So, like, it is all over again. Essen operation. Yes, we need volunteers. Yes, we will have open pre-orders. Yes, we have a ton of demos. Yes, we will have a promos at our booth, etc., etc. I think that we are good at this Essen already after these many years, that we have it, solved all the problems. So we will see. But for me, exciting time, like planning the travel, planning the hotels, everything, checking for what is already released. Of course, our games that we were pre-releasing at Gen Con. It is always, on one hand, very good for these alpha players who want this pre-released item. They want it earlier. But for everybody else, there's a lot of confusion because they were like, it was released or pre-released, or it is in my store or not yet. Like, on one hand, we are creating this buzz at the Gen Con, at the big convention, pre-releasing something. But then there's so many customers who don't know, can I go finally to my local game store? Is it out already? So here's the official, of course, announcement. Yes, Empires of the North is released. It is in all stores. Today I have a live stream with our fans, and I have first-hand information. You cannot buy Empires of the North yet in Malaysia.
In Malaysia,
not yet. There's a first.
But I can buy it here in the United States, or
yes,
if I was in the United States. I'm actually in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Did I mention I'm on a cruise?
Yes, you did. I need to tell her, look, that we need to improve our distribution in Malaysia, apparently. Yeah. But of course, in Europe and of course in North America, the game is available. And once again, I just want to invite everybody to go check out our YouTube shows, vlog and informant. So go to Portal Games YouTube, and you will see more of this Slavic accent, and you will see my face, which is awesome. So go.
You're so pretty.
Yes, of course.
That's not a compliment when somebody says that in the United States. You're so pretty. That means you're dumb as a door. No, I'm not.
I don't like this English lesson.
Okay, over at Stronghold Games, I'm going to be mentioning this for many episodes. The production on the Kickstarter games are still in progress. We've been getting samples for Mars Turmoil and Gizia and Aftershock and Democker. Everything's looking very good. We're still on target. If anything slips, you'll be the first to hear about it. Pre-orders are continuing for the following games, and maybe let me take a quick look at the calendar. By the time you hear this, I think, which is going to be next week, right? This will drop on the 4th. Okay, so by the time you hear this, it might be a little late, but they'll be in stores. Diamond's 2nd edition. That's the updated version with new graphic design and tweaks in one of the mechanics for our evergreen title, trick-taking card game Diamonds, as well as Amul, which is the card drafting game. Goes from 3 to 8 players with almost a fable mechanism, because the cards that come out after you change each one of the player accounts is very different. So the game will evolve with different player accounts, which is really kind of cool. Those are both street dating on September 4th. That's the reason you need to know your street dates, Ignacy, so you can tell people when they'll be in stores worldwide. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, also still on pre-order when you hear my voice will be Encore, which is Nockmaal in Germany. That's the largest selling roll and write in Germany. That's going to be street dating on October 2nd, if all things work out correctly. And that's the 6th game in our big roll and write series with That's Pretty Clever, Twice as Clever, Bricks, Second Chance, Dizzle, and finally Encore. Continuing also on pre-order, and the final major releases for the year would be Coffee Roaster, that solo game I've been talking about, all refreshed artwork, a reprint, but a real redo of the game with a much better production. Also, the Freedom and Freeze games of Fire, and fast slots. All of that will be available at Essen if you're going to be there with us, which is always kind of a good thing if you can be there. And that's it for going on over here. We're on the BGG at Sea, and week after we get back, we go down to the Dice Tower Retreat in Miami. I go back down to Miami to be there with Tom and to annoy him a little bit. And then we're in Essen preparation.
I'm not native speaker, but the word retreat means like going for some fun. Like, is it?
I don't know. Maybe we should go on to the next segment. Well, no, wait a minute.
Okay.
The retreats, yeah, it's like a gathering of friends that Tom is doing. So you need a ticket. Everybody can get in. It's not like invitation only though. But yes, we'll be playing games, but I'll be playing games with the fans. I'm trying to help us, Ignacy, and bringing more fans into things.
You're the best. You're the best.
All right, let's move on to the event deck before we kill each other.
The event deck. Here's the latest news from the board game industry.
Okay, so in the event deck,
I see the fresh news. I see. So this is the follow-up to the story we discussed last week, right?
That's exactly right, because since we did the story last week, and literally like the day after we did the story, the Wall Street Journal, right? Which, by the way, I found out because there's a trivia contest on this cruise. Did I tell you I'm on a cruise? There is a trivia contest on the cruise the other day, and it said, what's the largest newspaper in the United States? And I thought it was the New York Times, right? Very big. But no, it's the Wall Street Journal of all things. And the Wall Street Journal ran this article on August 23rd, and it says, Amazon has ceded control, has given up. Ceded means given up. Has given up control of its site. The result, thousands of banned, unsafe, or mislabeled products. Let me read a little bit from this. It's a very long article, so I'm not going to go through it all, but many of millions of people who shop on Amazon.com see it as if it were an American big box store or retailer with goods deemed safe enough for consumers. In practice, Amazon has increasingly evolved into a flea market. It exercises limited oversight over items listed by millions of third-party sellers, many of them anonymous, many of them in China, often offering scant information. A Wall Street Journal investigation found 4,152 items for sale on Amazon.com Inc.'s site that have been declared unsafe by federal agencies, are deceptively labeled, or are banned by federal regulators. Items that a big box retailer's policies would bar from their shelves. Among those items, at least 2,000 listings are for toys and medications lacking warnings about health risks to children. So without going into more and more of this, they literally did an investigative report because they went out, they bought the products, they did this entire expose on the nonsense that's going on Amazon. Now, if you remember from last week, I went on a rant about this, and Ignacy backed me up on it as well. And I want, for full disclosure, I'm an Amazon Prime member. I like my free shipping and my one-day shipping on certain items. In certain areas, you can get a 0-day shipping. It's amazing. You can order in the morning. It's there like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's crazy. But in all, with the complete view of this, there are certain products that are really, really dangerous, and Amazon is not policing their site. And as we reported last week, they're now going to be held liable for doing this because they're not just a platform. They are an e-commerce business, and they take money. They take money from anybody who sells on the site. So they're reaping the benefits of either counterfeit sales, sales of banned products, illegal products, and all of these things that go on. So we are again vindicated by this kind of story that the Wall Street Journal has put out. So kudos to the Wall Street Journal for exposing them even as an even bigger bad player on some levels.
On my side, I'm watching what's happening with the interest, and as I mentioned last week, Portal Games is a far too small company to have a problem with such things, but we are supporting all other companies trying to protect themselves, and we'll see. Like there is always some people who want to do something illegal, and with the reach of Amazon, of course, you want to expose, right? And now the platform has to defend. We will see.
No, it's a very interesting development. I think that the warning maybe that we're putting out there for everybody listening to us is that if a price looks too good to believe, it probably is. It could be a fake thing. It could be something. You have to do a little bit of your own digging to see what these products are that you're buying. So just be careful when buying things. Nobody wants to buy fake products, I hope. Nobody wants to buy banned products, I certainly hope. Especially if they could, especially if they're toys and they could go to kids and they're not tested and things like that. So buyer beware. Diana Jones Awards for Excellence in Gaming comes out, and that comes out at every Gen Con. That's when they announce that. And for some reason, I clicked on my link here, and it didn't come up, and there it and it's coming.
Yeah, this is the award. It doesn't have the biggest impact in terms of the sales, that's for sure. But it is my favorite award. We talk it every single year about this award because the title of this award for excellence in gaming, it is so sexy. Like I love this title of this award. And this year, the Mind
is one of the winners.
Surprise,
Yes,
Holding On. Amazing game as well from my friend Michael Fox. Star-Crossed. About this game, I did small research. It looks very interesting. I never heard about this game yet, so maybe this is a great proof that getting award makes some sense because I never heard about this game, Star-Crossed. Now I read the short note about this game, and I will do more research after after the recording. So this is a good point to get this award. And D&D art book to celebrate 40 years of the D&D. I'd love to have in my collection this Dungeons & Dragons art book, so maybe it will be in my collection one day.
Yeah.
For the Mind, of course I have it, and for Holding On, of course I have it. Great game. So great choices.
And to give a little more background, the Diana Jones Award is something that they literally do across all gaming spectrum, and they literally can nominate and give an award to
a person, an event, different things.
Exactly. They can give an award to a convention. They can give an award to a designer, a writer of RPGs. It could be anything that they deem to have an excellent impact on gaming. So very interesting choices that they made. They sound pretty good. Here's one that's interesting. 7 tabletop games are funded on Kickstarter every day. I mean, that is some amazing stat. On average, an average of 7 tabletop projects are successfully funded every day on Kickstarter, according to the latest figures on tabletop crowdfunding from analyst ICO Partners. Who knew that we had an analyst doing this work? According to a new report from ICO's Thomas Bidu, tabletop projects raised $80.5 million in the first half of 2019 versus $79.9 million, almost the same number, during the same 6-month period in 2018. Tabletop games made $85.5 million in the second half of last year, the biggest 6 months on Kickstarter for tabletop projects since the site launched. In the first half of 2019 is now the second biggest half year of all time. So, I mean, this is just showing that Kickstarter is becoming more and more and more important for the industry. There are just so many eyes on it. One of the reasons, of course, why Stronghold Games, with its new partnership with Indie Boards and Cards, Indie Game Studios, we now do the Kickstarters as well, and why Ignacy and Portal Games is going to be doing some Kickstarters as well.
That is exactly the truth, and to be honest, I want to be super honest, I didn't expect that this is 7 games every single day. I knew the Kickstarter is very important, I knew the big numbers, about the millions, about the funds, but the fact that every single day there's 7 projects funded, this is mind-blowing. I didn't recognize that this is such a high number, and I remember when I was still with PSI, and I remember that every other week on Wednesday there was a street day, so you probably know that, and there were these complaints in the industry that there is 15 games every other Wednesday or 20 games every other Wednesday. Come on Kickstarter, apparently there is 7 games every single day. Street dating, so called, yes, because they are funded. It looks like we have fully operating a second branch of the industry. Like we have the regular distribution industry, and we have like a second branch with 7 games every day. I'm mind blown. Like I have to honestly admit it.
Also very interesting is that in 2019 so far, tabletop games have continued to outpace video games on Kickstarter, despite video games seeing the best 6 months on the website since 2015, raising only $10.2 million. It's very interesting that the tabletop industry, is way outpacing the video game industry on that platform. The number of tabletop projects launched on Kickstarter over the last 6 months actually fell, dipping from 2016 in the first half of 2018 to 1,926 this year. However, the number of campaigns launched was up versus the start of 2018, which saw 1,676 go live. So these are pretty amazing stats. I guess we could figure out how many are failing too, because there's got to be a significant not funding. It's got to be a significant number not funding as well. But 7 funding per day, that's a pretty amazing number.
That's a terrifying number.
It's a terrifying number, is right.
And amazing.
Warhammer 40K. How about that? Warhammer 40K is coming to the small screen. We're going to have a TV show now based on Warhammer 40K. Isn't that amazing?
This is a good times. Yes, good times.
Games Workshop and Big Light Productions have announced the development of Eisenhorn, a live-action Warhammer 40K TV series. It will be based on the novels written by New York Times bestselling author Dan Abnett, which were originally published in 2001. The novels have sold over 500,000 copies globally. A good time to be a geek, a good time to be a gamer, seeing even more of the hobby showing up in these various places. That's really cool.
At this point, if this is January and if this is our predictions episode, I would try to come up with some prediction, because what I'm here extremely excited is that for years we have these, I would say 3 or 5 big brands like Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, like these main big brands. And now with every single year, Games Workshop and Warhammer getting stronger and stronger and stronger with the video games, and now with the TV show, and with the novels and the miniature games and board games and comic books. Like they are building this brand, and every single year they are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And of course, they will never be a Star Wars, they will never be a Lord of the Rings, but this is our IP, our geek. Like we were geeks for the whole our lives, and we were playing Warhammer, and now this Warhammer is getting trying to get to the mass media, to the mass market. I'm excited. Like I cannot wait to watch the show with my son and see all these characters we know from the miniature games. Very good times for us, and congratulations for Games Workshop to getting this brand stronger every single year. Very,
very cool. We have something from Toys R Us. The new owners of Toys R Us will be relaunching their retail stores in 2 locations, in Houston and New Jersey, my old home state. So they're trying to bring it back. Very, very different, very, very small footprint. So this could only be a good thing. They want to see if they can relaunch it, maybe more like a boutique kind of store versus that massive store that they used to have in the United States.
I just want to make an official announcement. If there is anyone who wants to hire me to get Toys R Us back into business, I have some great ideas to bring this brand.
Do you really?
To life, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I should get those ideas and pitch them for you.
Yes.
I can be your agent.
Yes, we can do it together.
All right. Okay, we've done quite a bit of news here, so let's go into strategy and tactics.
Strategy and tactics. Some advice for you from Board Games Insider.
So with Strategy and Tactics section, we take questions, as you know, from our Board Game Geek Guild. So find and post questions in that appropriate forum there. Jason Huffman, who's Dark Lord Huff, he asks, which graphic design applications do you find yourselves having to be most familiar with? For example, do you personally have to be competent with using InDesign when doing any rulebook or card editing? Even if you have graphic designers doing your graphics work for you, to what extent must you know or be familiar with different applications for purposes of reviewing or directing the work that you do? So I think Jason is asking if I and you have any idea whatsoever on how to use InDesign or any of the Adobe products. And the answer is a very, very strong no, at least on my side. Ignacy, do you have any idea how to use any of those products? A little bit of Photoshop.
Yes, back then, about 15 years ago, when I had to do it all by myself, I used the program called PageMaker. Maybe some of you heard about this. So I was using PageMaker, and I was doing DTP by myself, and these products looked terrible. I had no talent whatsoever, but I couldn't afford anybody else. But of course, now, as you said, we are running the companies. I'm also a chief of development and marketing. So for DTP, for Adobe, I just know how much I pay for invoices for this software every single month to have my team having all these programs up to date. So we are using InDesign, Photoshop, we do After Effects for the movies. So we have all these programs. But for me, for running company, I don't need today to know this software.
No, we don't need to do that. We have to have people to do it. I've never learned any of those. DTP, desktop publishing. I haven't heard that, by the way, those initials used in a long time. But we don't need to know that. We need to be able to comment. We need to be able to add comments onto something that we see. So you click on the button, you add comment, and then you send it back to your graphic designer or your editor, depending on what stage things are in.
Mostly we use Skype and our inbox for emails, and more emails. And then we answer some emails.
Those are the tools that we use the most, right? Yeah, Skype and your favorite email client. That's correct. So yeah, we don't do it. We have graphic designers that are obviously very fluent, and they use the various parts of what I mentioned, the Adobe suite, which is by far the biggest desktop publishing or the biggest publishing platform out there for everybody to use. And you keep the software up to date, as you mentioned. You want to stay up to date with the changes that are going on. Simon Probst, who's Lurka on BGG, says, if I remember correctly, Steven started Strong Games as a side project to his regular work. Pretty much true. I would like to know how you managed over time. I think pretty well, Simon. Did you reduce your work time from 5 days to 4 days or a few hours per day? Or did you even do it in the evening hours after work? Well, he has another question, but let's go with this one first. And you just keep. I have an axiom in my that I live by. A little hard work has never killed anybody. So if you really want something, you got to work hard at it. Now you might fail. And failure is part of life. But hopefully you've learned something when you do. Certain things maybe can't be done if it wasn't the right time and the market wasn't right and you didn't do your homework right to put yourself there. But if you see something and you wanted to do it and you want to do it, you put as much time into it, obviously at nights, obviously on the weekends. I worked 7 days a week, more 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for the longest time. I used to commute 3 hours a day to over an hour and a half in one direction, over an hour and a half back. So you did work on the train when I was doing that, going to the other job. And over time, sure, I did less work, real work, and more stronghold work until I said I can't do both anymore. So I had to get out of the other thing. And obviously it's worked out very well. So work hard at something, and it will pay off. And Ignacy, it's the same thing for you, and you've got 20 years of experience like that. Any comments you want to make?
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about in this seminar. The success of Portal Games and the success that this year I was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres for Detective. It is not accident. It is me working day and night every freaking weekend and every single night and evening for 20 years. And of course, I tell in this seminar lots of funny stories. But all of these funny stories are because we know new shit about board games. We had no money. We were just, young companies struggling without the Facebook ads, without Google AdWords, without all these things that people have today. And we were struggling and working and trying harder and trying harder. And today I'm in a place that I'm very happy with and very proud, especially proud.
Yeah.
And this is exactly like, let's put it once again, because you are maybe too humble to admit it. Like, you go to the work, you go work from 9 to 5, you take the shower, you eat the dinner, and then you work another few hours running the Stronghold games. And this is like, you have to put in the work if you want the thing that you love the most to become your actual job as an actual thing. And so this is like, it doesn't mean that Steven was working less in his regular job to have Stronghold games. No, he was working as everybody else 8 hours a day, and then in the nights and in the evenings he was growing Stronghold games, and now he's happy and Ignacy is happy.
Yes.
But these are not accidents, guys. This is not, we were not lucky. I have this one vlog I recorded, I think it was 2 years ago, and the vlog had this punchline: I'm not lucky, I just freaking work. And this is like
that's great.
This is how you get in life the success, right?
Yeah. You got to work at it. I do. And just a couple more words. I was, on some level, of course, I believe that I was a little lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. When I saw an opportunity, so that's not lucky. I saw an opportunity there that I said, there is a place for another company here, another person who can do something very well in this space. Now, if I was going to do it now, if I looked into the industry, I would be like, oh, I ain't getting into this industry. No way. Too crowded, too hard to get your games out there. We're established companies now, so we can weather a harder storm that we're in now, and we can get our games noticed above other games. Back then, it was much easier to do so. That's why I was able to do it. But so there's that good timing, which I'll consider a little bit of luck as well. But thank you, Ignacy, for those kind words. He has a second question, and he said, for both of us, so with companies like Google training algorithms to play games like Go or chess, is there an interest to use machine learning to prototype games? Those algorithms need to be modeled, but computers can play thousands of games per day and maybe even find a winning strategy, which could then be mitigated. Well, I mean, I think the short answer to that is I don't think that we have the manpower nor the expertise to really create a program every time we create a game. So I don't see a way to do that. Go and chess are actually, I know this is going to sound weird, simple games. Very, very simple games that, there are only a certain number of things that you can do on any given, only certain things you can do. There are pieces there, and they do this. In the games that we design, these hobby games, this thing does something completely different than this thing. The modeling of a hobby board game is much harder than the modeling of chess or Go. Now, let me one more word on it. I know that Go is one of the hardest, deepest games to play well, but it's easy to do a bad model of it. Now Google is doing very good models. To do a bad model of it that can play the game. And chess, similar. Now chess, computers obviously beat human beings as well. Ignacy, any other comments on this?
So I do love to have a skill to put my prototype in and put it into the computer, and 2 weeks later I get the results from 1 million games. Of course, I don't have a skill, so I use a manpower that is my playtesters who have to pretend to be smart computers. As a interesting fun fact about the industry is that Vlada Chvatil, the designer of Through the Ages and designer of Dungeon Pets and Dungeon Lords and Galaxy Tracker and all these great games, he is a coder. Like, first he was a coder, and he was first working in a software company, and then he became a tabletop game designer, and his prototypes are first playtested by the computer. So he writes the code, he puts this game to the machine plays hundreds of times, and when Vlada is happy with the results, then he put it to the humans, and then humans break the game because humans are crazy, and they can playtest in different ways that computer can do. So if I have a skill, of course I would use a computer, but most of us, we are tabletop designers because we don't like computers and we hate them, and we prefer pen and paper and scissors, so we use a manpower and playtesters. But yes, there are some designers who have the skill, and it speeds up the process. Like basically, they can achieve in a one weekend as many playtest as we will receive in a few months. But well, I have different skills and I'm handsome, so I'm happy. Why laughing? Why this laugh?
You're
Like
so pretty. All right, we're going to the final scoring.
Final scoring. Let's find out what's happening at Portal Games and Stronghold Games.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, like iTunes or Stitcher. To ask questions for our strategy and tactics segment, make sure you post them in the correct guild on Board Game Geek. We have a Facebook page for this podcast. That's Board Games Insider on Facebook. Of course, we have our company Facebook pages, /Stronghold Games and /Portal Games. The websites for the company is strongholdgames.com, portalgames.pl, and portalgamesus.com. On there, you can sign up for the newsletter, and then you really stay inside, find out up to the minute what's happening, and when the pre-orders go on sale, and cool promos that we have on sale, things that you can only get really directly from the companies. On social media, make sure you talk directly to Steven and Ignacy on Twitter. That's at Stronghold Games and at ChevyCheck. We actually do most of those answering right there with you. On Instagram, it's the same, at Stronghold Games, at ChevyCheck. And, of course, we both have YouTube channels. Check us out. We hope to see you on an upcoming convention. Hopefully you're here at BGG at Sea. I'm going to be going down and playing games with you. Dice Tower Retreat next week. Essen, BGG Con, and PAX Unplugged for the rest of the year. I think that covers all the conventions, Ignacy, right? Do you have any other conventions besides those?
I have one convention in Poland, but for international, that's it.
Okay. And we're going to make a special shout out here. I'm going to do this every episode. You can share your love for Board Games Insider with your friends, and you can also share your love for Matthew Jude from This Game Is Broken. Now, Matthew Jude, he does our editing on this podcast. And guess what? He'll edit your podcast too if you want him. He told me to make sure we put this on there. So we're going to be mentioning this. If you want him to edit your podcast, you can contact him on Twitter or email him at thisgameisbrokenpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, Matthew, for doing the work that Ignacy and I would not want to do. See, we have people that can do things for us. Ignacy, great episode. Maybe I have something not really secret, but a little announcement or something?
I see it in the show notes, and I cannot wait, so tell us.
No, all I'm going to do is I'm going to mention that I'm going to go on Operation Podfather 2. About 3 years ago, I think it was, I went on Operation Podfather, and I told everybody out there, any podcast out there, I don't care if your mother's the only person who listens to it, if you'd like, I'll make sure I make time and appear on your podcast. So, if you'd like, have me on. Maybe that'll drum up some extra support, extra hits, extra downloads for you. That's great. Of course, I'll promote the company, and we can have a conversation about whatever is cool and whatever you do on your podcast. So I'm officially announcing Operation Podfather 2, and if you want to reach me to be on your podcast, drop me an email at Steven@strongholdgames.com. Steven with a PH, STEPHEN @strongholdgames.com. Love to be on your podcast. Ignacy, you have anything else you want to talk about?
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the love for the podcast. Thank you for sharing our content. And I hope to hear you next week.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Board Games Insider with Ignacy ChevyCheck and Steven Bonacore. Board Games Insider has been made possible by you, our listeners and hobby board game enthusiasts. Ignacy and Steven thank you greatly for your support of their companies and the hobby board game industry. Follow both Portal Games and Stronghold Games on Twitter, like both companies on Facebook, and sign up for their newsletters on portalgames.pl and strongholdgames.com. Please join us next time on Board Games Insider.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network, the home of smart people, insightful board gaming commentary, and Ignacy ChevyCheck. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com.